everyone, the time is now. Everyone says that you shouldn't vote for someone just because you don't like someone else, that you should vote for things and not against things. And I agree, but I can't vote for either one of these parties anymore. Videos this week, I will lay out the beginnings of a plan. This plan, people across the country can take part in. And the idea is to siphon power away from the two parties and eventually overthrow them. Have you ever watched a superhero movie and thought to yourself that you would do better than what the main character does? Or you would make all the same smart decisions? Just about every one of us puts ourselves into the main character's shoes, and we think about how cool it would be to be thrown into a situation like that and be tested in that way. Or maybe we imagine ourselves to be the president in a movie. And, if I were president, what would I do? What would I say to the aliens? How would I stop World War III? Meanwhile, all of us are ignoring the movie that we're actually in, because the direction that we are going as a species is similar to the trajectory of a zombie horror movie. You know what I'm talking about. Right now, we're in the kitchen looking at the television while the news anchor is trying to tell us something important is breaking across the city. Something is happening, but it doesn't have all of our focus. We're not looking over there. We're talking to somebody over here, and we miss the story. We might even catch a word or two and be concerned and glance at the screen and might have a little concern in our face, but then the phone rings and we got to take that call and we just miss it. So we leave for work, not knowing what's actually happening outside. And for all of those movies, I can tell you, it's so frustrating because we think to ourselves, if only they had paid attention to the TV that morning, if only they noticed all those little signs that were around them, they might have stood a chance. Things might have been different. I mean, I saw them look at the TV screen. Why didn't they just pay attention? I feel frustrated like that, but I feel frustrated for us in reality because this is the movie that we're in. We're in the movie where the scientists have been screaming at us for years that if we don't do something now being 20 years ago, the effects of climate change are going to be catastrophic on people, vegetation, and animal life. And our ability to actually recover, put the environment back to the state that it was in, that's not really going to be possible. It's never going to look like it looked when we were growing up. Not for our lifetimes, not for our children's lifetimes, not for their children's lifetimes. I know you know that the weather everywhere is but what happens when the water runs out? Like all those people that rely on water from the Colorado River. Water's drying up fast, and they've known this for years, and the local governments and the federal governments, for some reason, can't devise a plan. And the populations of those cities are only growing. I mean, how often are we going to put education and our healthcare and the environment behind other people's greed? Because that seems to be the thing that's winning the day. And that's the situation that you're in right now. It's up to you. And most of us haven't done and we need to start right now because the movie began 20 minutes ago. Pay attention to this story on the screen because if you don't do something, you watching this right now that made it to this point and seemingly care so much about this, if you don't do anything, then you can imagine no one else is doing it. And we're all going to be stuck in the middle of rush hour traffic when the zombie hits the fan. So let's talk about specific actions that you need to take. You can take. We all need to take because it's time for all of us to start paying our dues, to start putting in and building a new system that will actually work for people. Everyone wants to get something. They want other people to do the work, but that's not going to happen. If you want to wait, you'll be complaining forever. Until we actually decide as individuals to do something, everything's going to remain exactly as is because the powers that be see our complacency and they're perfectly fine with it. They don't need to act. if we decide to protest, go out into the streets, they'll see that we're not entirely complacent, but that we're easily thwarted and waited out. They'll give us some lip service, and then when we leave the streets because we got to go back to work, those in charge can change their tune. Well, if you want to join this movement, you have to do things that will promote the future that we actually want to see. You're going to be the ones building it, okay? I wish I could say a magic hand is going to come from the sky and make everything better, but there is no sky daddy that's going to help us out of this. We're going to have to be diligent and do things over and over and over again and share messages with people and have discussions. If you're not paying your dues, if you're not putting in the work, or you don't plan to put in the work, then it's very easy for all this to just be for naught. But in my videos this week, I will lay out the beginnings of a plan. This plan, people across the country can take part in. And the idea is to siphon power away from the two parties and eventually overthrow them. We need to also change the way that elections are run in this country, so that way good people have a fair shot and it's not just dominated by two parties. The two-party system is not difficult to defeat when each half of the duopoly is rotten at the core. How many people in these parties hate the people in charge? How many people are in these parties and they hate the lack of progress, the lack of advancement for whatever their agendas are? How many people in these parties just hate the parties themselves and wish there was another alternative? We can't get stuck in our heads. We can't get it stuck in our heads that these two parties are indestructible. We got to remember that things come into existence and things leave existence just as easily. There have been other parties in this country before, and they're no longer here. Parties that had presidents at the front of them, leading them, they're no longer here. Look at what the Tea Party did. They had nothing and they gained influence. Think about them whatever you will, it's the truth. After Obama was elected, the Tea Party started doing their demonstrations, and then they actually have people in Congress like 2 years later that espouse to their message? Huh? I mean, come on. This is not impossible. So, people have been groomed to believe that something difficult, something that's merely difficult, is actually impossible. And that's just not true. And I've had the pleasure of speaking to people from a large geographic area from all over the political spectrum. And the one thing that unites all of them is they are disgusted with the way our current system is. Have you seen the approval ratings for Congress, the Supreme Court, the President of the United States? Everyone, the time is now. Everyone says that you shouldn't vote for someone just because you don't like someone else, that you should vote for things and not against things. And I agree, but I can't vote for either one of these parties anymore. The government is not going to fix our homeless problems, at least the government that stands right now. The government that stands right now will not address our school shootings, our food insecurity issues, our future growth as a population, and how we're going to distribute things like water. And, the ever-escalating issues around climate change. The American Midwest, all those people out there near the Colorado River, all those cities rely on that water, and it's going away, and the populations are increasing. If another pandemic were to happen, does anyone know what the plan is? No, because they haven't given us any type of plan, because they don't think in advance like that. The government that we have is one that is purely reactive, never proactive, only when it comes to being absolutely necessary. And even when it is absolutely necessary, oftentimes it's so incompetent and inefficient to the point where it doesn't even lend itself to being effective. There are a small handful of individuals in Congress, in the government, that are actually trying to do the job that we need them to do. And while their actions are notable, that is not enough reason to try and salvage and save this current system that they are a part of. It really does not matter if a Democrat or a Republican wins. It matters a little bit, but in the grand scheme of time, humanity, it really doesn't matter, because the issues that we need to overcome are so much bigger than these two parties can actually handle. We are woefully unprepared. So many times when it comes to the important things like our children, their education, the environment, it seems like we never have enough money or ability to plan for these things, but we always have enough money for war. We always have enough money to bail out a bank. But no one actually wants to dig for the root reasons as to why these things happen and how we can prevent them in the future and mitigate their damage in the future. We never look to see who's accountable, who's responsible for things, and hold them accountable. I don't trust either party. and they don't deserve your trust either. Each has had plenty of time and opportunity to prove themselves, and they have failed numerous times, bigly. But what do we do? What do you and I do as individuals when something like this happens? When we get to a point where the government no longer serves the purpose that we need it to serve? Well, join me and I will tell you exactly what we need to do. Tomorrow, let's talk phase 1. Don't just like this video. Don't just subscribe or share. Join me. So, if you found this video valuable, go ahead and do all of those normal things. Like it and subscribe it and share it and whatever. I want to know what you think, so actually do leave something in the comments, because those comments, I'm actually going to respond to some of those in videos, and I really want to know what you're thinking so that way I can answer questions or try to at least point in the right direction. Also, you can support this channel by picking some merch up from the store. So do that if you feel so inclined. And last but not least, I appreciate you watching this. These topics are not fun, and I'm not doing it because they're fun, but I'm doing it because we have to do something. And right now, this is what I know to do, and I have ideas for more. So stay tuned.